Now, Bruce McCulloch joins me live in Studio Q. An honor.
Woo!
Oh,
Well, thank you so much. You've said it all. I can leave now.
yeah, that's it. That's
I
the
can,
show.
I can get my check for $10,000 and go.
Exactly. Well, that's how they. Wait, they're paying for this?
Yeah, all the guests on Q get $10,000, don't they?
Brian, we got to talk about this after the show. My producer, Brian, we got to really clear this about the money. No, because you are someone that shaped my comedy. You know, like growing up, we were talking about it just before the show started, but you're someone that, that Much Music Special, like so much things that you did over the years, your record, Kids in the Hall, just various things that you did really shaped who I am. And so it's an honor to meet you and an honor to get to talk to you.
Well, thank you so much.
But as a teen discovering your comedy, I think it resonated so much with me because I was a rebellious teen stuck in a not very happy situation that I was in. Something that I guess you were in, judging by your memoir and Young Drunk Punk. What is it about your troubling teen years that keeps you coming back to it for comedy gold?
Well, as the character Ian in the show says, I don't know who I want to be. I just know who I don't want to be. And I think it started when I was young and I didn't have a model of what my life should be. And I had just a sort of rebellion that there's something wrong with society, although I couldn't quite figure it out. And I think, as I get older, and I'm old now, I realize that that's just the search within me and perhaps a lot of us. And so that's what punk is. I'm over 50. I'm a punk. I was a punk when I was 14. So that's the drive that I've always had.
Well, you mentioned Ian MacKaye. Is that an allusion to Ian MacKaye, lead singer of Minor Threat? The lead character in the show, of course, is named Ian MacKaye, I should say.
No, it's just a name of a morph of half-remembered names of people that I went to high school with, or it sounded phonetically correct to me as a comedy writer.
Well, you've been, as I said, working on comedy about growing up in a variety of different forms now. But with sitcoms, what's the benefit of doing it as a sitcom as opposed to a book or a one-man show?
Well, it can become alive. Like then you go, oh, this is what it felt like, and this is what it's like to roll up to a high school in a crappy Toyota Corona and get out. And so it really is alive in a different way. And the thing is, writing a book is nice, but it's a kind of a memory and it connects with people. But when you make a TV show or series, it really is alive in a way. It literally is right in front of you.
Well, that show is really alive, and I noticed I'm a stickler for finding historical inaccuracies in the background. So I checked every punk poster, and I'm like, no, everything was released by that time. What was it like growing up at that time in 80s Calgary? What was 80s Calgary like as a place?
Well, I mean, there was the search there that you didn't, we would just phone Ticketmaster and say, is T-Rex coming? And they go, no. And you'd phone the next day, is T-Rex coming? And it was a wasteland where you would wanted people to come through and give you something. And there was they didn't have the internet. We couldn't find each other. There was, we were six losers driving around in a Toyota Corona. And so it was definitive by the fact that we were starved for the outside world. And, if you'd see an enemy or a New Yorker, it was like pornography,
Well, you mentioned T-Rex, so I assume you were a glam rock fan kind of growing up. You also talk in the book about loving Queen and things like that.
Oh, I loved Mott the Hoople. I loved, but I loved Deep Purple. I loved anything that wasn't, what the cowboys in the trucks drove around blaring and, Three Dog Night and, all that sort of that rock that was around. So, when I was young, I would go to someone's house and go through their records to see who they were. Mm-hmm. And I think I defined myself by my music before I knew who I was.
Yeah, I'm the same way. You always can. There's a line in High Fidelity about it's not who you are, it's what you own. It's your books and your records and things like that.
Right.
And I guess we're moving away from that now in the digital world. But at that time, being sort of a glam rocker in, as you describe it, sort of cowboy land, what was it? What kind of, did you run afoul with people for being kind of glam?
I would wear nurse's shoes around because, I wasn't gay, but if I had been, it would make more sense, because I knew I wasn't like the people around me. I think I was fighting the world for no reason. And then literally when I found comedy, everything in my life changed. I stopped dressing creatively, stopped wearing, a shirt and three ties and a weird hat. I just started wearing army pants and getting to work of creating stuff.
Well, it's when you find that outlet that you can, I guess, really express yourself. And But why not conform prior to that? I guess it's like, because that's what people said to me too. Like, why don't you just be like everyone else?
Well, I think I had a burning creativity in me that was based on my weird worldview, that was probably based on my weird childhood, and I just knew I wanted to do something. And part of this show is to connect with, I think, the young people. We all don't know what we want to be. We all know we're special. We're all outsiders, and let's just help each other. So I think it's about that.
So you keep coming back to music. Obviously, music was hugely important for you, and it's obviously hugely important for me. And so, as a way of me going through your record collection back then, what kind of stuff were you listening to?
Well, I did the Punk and the Damned, and obviously all the great Canadian stuff, the Pointed Sticks and the Demics and the Vile Tones and the stuff that pops up in the series. But I was also listening to Uriah Heep and Rory Gallagher and anything that that I got at the record store, or a weird marching band, thing from Germany that just happened to be there. So it was on the odd place, but it was eclectic as well.
So you obviously define punk as something larger than just sort of a 3-chord music expression.
And the truth is, having seen Husker Du and the Calgarian in 1979, it was almost too hard for me. I kept having to find the humanity. So some of that's why the Buzzcocks was always better for me in a way than some of the other bands.
Well, I've always found it fascinating if people knew each other back then. And obviously the Dry Heaves were a Calgary local band featuring future Liberal strategist Warren Kinsella. Did you know Warren Kinsella back then?
No, not at all.
Did you know the Dry Heaves? Were you a fan of that band?
Yeah, no, I knew that band as well. But unless he threw a drink on me, maybe back in those days, I didn't bump up against him.
Okay. How would you react now to playing a parent? Obviously, in the Kids in the Hall, you played parents, and now you're playing a parent on Young Drunk Punk. How has that changed your approach to playing a parent? Also, since becoming a parent.
Well, the Kids in the Hall is a sketch. This is hopefully a deeper show in terms of, what the characters are going through together. But I did. We all grow up playing ourselves, our girlfriends, and our parents. But I've enjoyed. I have children now, and I enjoyed playing a guy who is a little bit lost, trying to give some guidance to his son who is a little lost. So I've really enjoyed it because I am the old guy. So I love to be the old guy going, what is this prank rock you're into?
As a parent, though, do you think it changes the way you judge other parents, and I guess your own parents,
Oh, yeah.
I'm a parent as well. That's how I can talk like this.
But also, my dad was a boozer, so I raised myself. I could go sleep at someone's house when I was 9. I could gobble acid at 13. No one stopped me. So and no one told me to be nice to someone, to call a girl back, to not quit a job in a glorious fashion. And so I like the idea of being able to try to have those conversations with someone, the conversations I never had.
So where then is the inspiration coming for the character that you're playing on the show?
Well, he's lost, and he's, I've always dined out on a little lost man who, I work at Brave Vista, which is the actual townhouse community that I grew up in as a teenager. I'm the head of security, so I'm a man with a little bit of power. So I've always enjoyed a guy who's in over his head with a little bit of power.
Do you find, though, that these sort of traumas that you have at youth, now ultimately you're able to kind of mine this stuff as an adult? Do you find these little traumas, you're kind of grateful for at a certain point?
Oh, yeah. I mean, my life only could be the way it is. But it was really interesting to turn back in a way that I hadn't to really, and it started with the book and my stage show, but to really think about who I was at that age. And, I've been to Calgary many times, but I hadn't been to the townhouse community I actually grew up in. So it's a blessing. And of course it's a beauty. And the truth is, the guy who is the biggest a-hole probably in the thing, if you looked at me, was me. It wasn't the Cowboys who I was taunting by wearing oven mitts, down the street for some reason. It was me.
But Calgary's changed so much. You mentioned you've been able to go back, and that's a city that now I think you wouldn't be out of place wearing oven mitts walking down the street as like an artistic expression. I mean, not that everyone's gone.
Well, everyone should be wearing oven mitts walking down the street at all time. No, I absolutely. But, that's why I picked 1980.
Yeah.
It is at a time when we don't know what to do with ourselves. and as the Buzzcocks say. So I think that's what's interesting for me, is to look back on that time and to see that someone who wants to find themselves, or a couple of people who want to find themselves, as we all want to find themselves, which connects with how I think this generation is. Because if you're not on Twitter, and you're not a porn star, and you're not in a band, and you're not like whatever, what are you?
Mm-hmm.
Who am I, Mummy?
Well, even though, well, actually, speaking of who you were back then, this is your third sort of adaptation of your youth. Are you still learning stuff about who you were as a teenager and putting stuff in perspective from your life back then?
Oh, without question. And also, it's just good clay in a way. You can go, oh yeah, I remember a bush party where something happened. So it's not like, I mean, I'm an artist, a serious artist in a way. Like, I really care about my work, but I'm not walking through with kit gloves. I'm just going, oh, that was an idea. Oh yeah, dial a bottle. That was a thing. That's a good idea. So I always try to follow the water.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and out of that comes probably some resonance, but it's just like, oh, what's the coolest, funniest idea?
As now an adult and getting closer to having, I guess, teenagers yourself. They're not teenagers yet, your children, I assume. And
I think not.
Okay.
Perhaps they are.
Okay. Well, I didn't want to assume anything that you know about. The children that you know about are not teenagers now. Is at this point, are you fearful for that age, being a rebellious teenager, looking at what's to come? I'm terrified.
Well, I'm terrified too. I mean, I have a nice scar on my arm from a knife fight in the Calgarian hotel, which I think now would be a gunfight. So
what was that show? What show were you seeing that
it
led
could
to?
have been any show. I don't know. It's probably that Black Flag show I wandered into. I don't know. I'm fearful, but I think I'm actually a huge humanist. So I believe in love and hope and teaching kids the right way. And there's a lot of terrible things in the world, but there's a lot of great things in the world. So it's kind of trying to help my children point in that direction.
Are you anxious about getting older?
I think I was, but I'm not now. Like, I think, it's the old native term that only the young are dying. I feel energized, and I think there's something for me about, I've written a lot of sitcoms and things for studios in the States, and that there's some things that I feel like I've kind of bashed through a wall by like getting back to stuff that really, the reason I started it, performing live, doing a live show with Brian Connolly, doing this show. I feel pretty young.
You mentioned living in Los Angeles now, which is where you live, but you've also kind of said that you're interested in kind of coming back to Canada. What was it like going back to Canada and kind of living here, filming the show again? Is it somewhere, do you want to relocate here still with your family?
Oh yeah, no. I mean, we have constant conversations about it. I mean, my wife's family's in Kitchener, so I think we may end up there. And I can't afford a house in Toronto anymore. So no, I want to get back. I think I did a couple studio films as a director, and I kind of got sucked into the idea that there's a lot of work there, and they say yes and no very quickly. And I'm a dog who needs a job, so I want to dig the hole as deep and far as I can. But my soul and heart are here, and I've been here an absolute a lot of time over the last few years.
Did it change the way you work when you had children?
I actually wasn't one of those guys who's ever panicked, because luckily I've always found a little bit of money, so I didn't have to go, I need to do this for my kids. It actually did the other thing for me, which is like, oh, do I want to spend time doing this? And now I can kind of more quickly go, that's on my path or not on my path, based on the fact that I have a little bit of balance in my life.
So now that you've kind of come back and done this project, do you think that there is, I guess, a future as far as rebellion for teenagers? Like, it looks like this was sort of as rebellious as kids can get. What do you think the next sort of wave of rebellion is going to be?
I don't know if we're all having rebellion. We all are trying to figure out who we are. It's like I say in my stage show, outsiders, there sure are a lot of us, which is great. So we're all kind of insiders in a sense. So I don't know what rebellion, I think people are always lost, and they're lost and lonely. So I think you don't have to rebel to find other people, and I don't think you have to get into a knife fight in the Calgarian hotel to figure out who you are. And I think this generation is realizing that.
Well, if it took a knife fight for me to see Black Flag back then, I would do it gladly, Bruce. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been amazing getting to talk to you.